Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all and welcome to the channel. In this video we will discuss the skill checks and difficulty classes within the rule set of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Previously we have covered the statistical scores, the purpose of each score, and the calculation of the modifiers. However, we did not see the importance or the relevance of the modifiers. And as I mentioned in that previous lecture, the purpose of the statistical scores is to provide you with a modifier. And that is the most important aspect of your character with respect to the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, as I will prove to you today. Some people may disagree with me. That is their prerogative. I honestly do not care. This is how I see it. And I can prove it from experiences with other players, and I will mention that later on. Firstly, let us generate new statistical scores. Then we will calculate, well, it will automatically calculate the modifier for me in this program. Feel free to use the scores that we calculated from the previous session, or you can pause the video and roll a new set and calculate the modifier before you continue watching this video. Yeah, 12 is good, so I will take 12, 18, 14. Actually, wait a minute. Okay, that is interesting. I didn't add a 2 there. Could be an error in the program. I will have to inform the developer. And a 9. Okay. So as you can see, we have the different statistics. And we have the modifiers calculated. Before we move on to the purpose of the modifier, let us discuss the skills quickly. Then we will move on to the difficulty class and the proficiency bonuses. Each statistical score, except for Constitution, has a series of skills, as you can see here. For example, Strength has a sub-skill known as Athletics. Dexterity has a skill related to Acrobatics. Sleight of Hands, if you are a thief and you enjoy stealing without having anyone identify or notice. Something similar to Assassin's Creed 2, how you simply bump into someone and pickpocket them. Stealth, if you are sneaking around, such as Solid Snake or Sam Fisher. I do not qualify Gabriel Logan and Siphon Filter as a stealth game, in my opinion. Religion, if you are a scholar and you are familiar with different religions or different religious aspects, and you wish to recall what you know, this will be the skill for you. Similar to religion is nature. If you are familiar with different natural aspects or natural habitats, this will be the skill for you. The same applies to history, but instead of nature or religion, it will be historical events. Arcana or arcanum is the knowledge of magic. And investigation, if you are investigating a particular scene, such as a crime scene, for example. Wisdom has insight, if you would like to gain insight into the intention of the individual before you, or if you wish to identify different haptics of that individual that could indicate that he is lying, that would be insight. Medicine, if you wish to heal someone, non-magically that is. Survival is related to the survivability of your character in the wilderness. Is the character able to forage, cut down woods, navigate in the sea, through the usage of stars or wind and so on, wind movement and so on and so forth. Perception is related to the five senses. Are you able to see well, hear well, taste well, and so on and so forth? Animal handling is related to taming animals. For charisma, persuasion is related to the ability to convince someone. Performance is related to characters who enjoy performing, such as singers and songstresses, or orators, or public speakers. Intimidation, if you wish to scare someone. And deception, if you wish to lie to someone effectively without being caught. And of course, athletics is related to, well, athletics, physical strength, physical fitness, and so on and so forth. Now, the score for each of these skills is determined by the score of the modifiers, as you can see here. For athletics, it is set to 1 because the modifier is set to 1. Acrobatics is set to 4 because the dexterity modifier is set to 4, and so on and so forth. Let us take the example of athletics to see what is the purpose or the significance of the ability modifiers, and by proxy the skill modifiers. Here we have an example. This is our character Yod in Ashur, and he is approaching this pit. And if you think I was inspired by the game Pitfall, you think correctly. And you, as a player, have the intention of having Yod jump. Oh, I need to disable transparent selection. Grab the vine and swing across. This action has a probability for success and a probability of failure. The Yod here may be able to catch the vine successfully, swing and land successfully. Yod may fail to catch the vine as it is swinging and fall to his death. Or Yod could grab the vine and he slips before he jumps carefully and falls. Or he could jump, catch the vine, jump across, but stumble and fumble on landing. Multiple probabilities. What determines the success or the failure of this action? That is when the host will ask the player to roll for a skill check. We will cover saving throws in a separate video, bi'idhnillah, and God willing. The host may ask the player to roll for an acrobatics check to see if the character will pass the action or not. It could be acrobatics. Some hosts would say this is related to acrobatics rather than athletics, but I would say it is related to athletics. That is my personal perspective. Now, what would be expected of the player? He would be expected to roll for what is known as an athletics check or a skill check. What does that entail? Rolling a d20, 1 d20, and whatever the number that the roll yields, let us say 14, is then added to the skill score here. So here I have 1. So the skill check is now equal to a total of 15. Just as an example, I will use the program here to roll for an athletics check. Oh wow, 14, close. Now, what is this number used for? It is used in comparison with a particular number that is set by the host. The host will decide how difficult or how simplistic this action truly is. It depends on the host. From what I have heard, I have not seen, but actually, wait, I did witness some stupidity. Actions that should be easy were quite difficult. God only knows why, but anyways. So it depends on the host. If the host wishes for the character to pass easily, he will lower a particular number that is used in comparison with the skill check. If he wishes to create difficulties, he will raise that number or that threshold. This number or this threshold set by the host is known as the is known as the difficulty class. Also known as DC. I think Marvel is better, but now this ranges from, if I remember the rules in the rule book, it is 3 to 35 to 35, if I recall, with 5 being extremely easy and 35 being impossible. Some hosts judge and concoct a number accordingly. Others use difficulty classes suggested by different source materials. Personally, I do not resort to any source materials. I rely on experience combined with a character's skill set and the character's experience. So if a character is athletic, I would lower the difficulty class for that character. If a character is a type of person who watches TikTok all the time or plays video games all the time, I will raise the difficulty class because it is logical for the latter person to fail as opposed to the former person. So let us say the difficulty class for this action, for this particular action, will be 11. DC is equal to 11. There we go. The roll was 14. If the skill check is greater than or equal to the DC, the action is successful. This may also rely on the host's discretion. They may say just greater than, not equal to, but the general rule is that if the number is greater than or equal to the DC, results in a successful action. Now, you probably have inferred the significance of the statistical modifiers here. The greater the number, the better the chance for you to have a high skill check. And the higher the skill check, the higher the chance is for your character to succeed. Whereas if you have a low modifier, the chances of rolling a high skill check will be extremely low. That is why it is best if you have a high modifier here, because it assists with the skill checks. However, since this game stupidly relies on dice, and I will say why stupidly at the end of this video, inshallah bi'ithnillah and God willing, there is another mechanic that assists in increasing the skill checks without affecting the modifier. This is known as the proficiency bonus. If, for example, Yod is an experienced warrior, even though this is not an accurate representation of the character, but I honestly do not have time for sprite editing anymore, unfortunately. So Yod is proficient in, I would say he is proficient in athletics. If he is proficient in athletics, this 2, which is the starting point for proficiency bonuses, and it increments after 4 increments of the level. So for example, at level 5, it increments by 1. At level 9, it increments by 1, and so on and so forth. But it starts at 2, from level 1 to level 4, then from level 5 to level 8, and so on and so forth until level 20. If Yod is proficient in athletics, I add the 2 here to the skill score here, which is 1, and that was obtained from the modifier here. Now watch what happens when I click here. It added the 2. So it is 2 plus 1 gives you 3. So now when I roll this, I have a higher number, which means the chances of a higher number are now better than a skill check with a low number. In addition to the proficiency, there is also another mechanic added that would increase this number even greater. And this is known as expertise. With expertise, if your character is an expert in a particular skill, instead of adding the proficiency bonus once, you add it twice in total. So here I added 2. So now with this, I can add 2 more. So now instead of starting with 1 here, I add 2, and then I add 2 more. So I add a total of 4, as you can see. Now the chances are much higher for rolling a better number or a larger score. The reason at least from my perspective, the reason I feel the most important portion of the game would be the modifier, not the statistical score, even though the statistical score is necessary for determining certain consequences or certain events. For example, if you wish to wear a heavy armor, your strength score must be greater than, I believe it was either 16 or 18, either or. So it does play a role here. But what people always misunderstand, or there is a misconception about modifiers, mainly because of the stupidity of Critical Role or any of these stupid shows, that what people misunderstand is that simply because, let us say, my intelligence is 8, it does not mean that my character is dumb and I should role play as a dumb idiot. If you are role playing as a dumb idiot, not only will you ruin the campaign, but you will also ruin the immersion for other people. You may laugh at it for 2 sessions, 3 sessions, but when it is consistent, trust me, it will not be hilarious. Unless you are doing it for views, maybe that will attract sheep. I honestly do not know. And what proves my point that what is most important is the modifier, not the score, is that I remember one of the players in my party, thankfully that party disbanded because I hated those people. Its strength, and I am not being disrespectful, that creature states that his ancestors are monkeys. So I am being respectful to his ancestry by saying it instead of he. So its strength score was 18. And the party was fighting against level 1 spider creatures or arachnoid creatures. And it missed every single attack. Even though its strength score was 18, and I believe it was level 15, if I recall correctly, a high level character. And it missed all the attacks. The sorcerer, who was much weaker and much more pathetic in terms of statistics, landed more attacks than that descendant of the monkeys. Which is why this score does not matter if it is high or if it is low, because ultimately you are relying on the dice, which means you are relying on this number. The only time this matters is when you calculate this number, and that is it. Other than a few restrictions, as I mentioned with the armor and so on and so forth, this number does not really play a role. So if you are entering a group, this is my personal recommendation. If you are entering a group where they take these numbers or translate these numbers realistically, you will not enjoy your time. Because when you have a dumb character who is being dumb not because it matches the statistical score, because no one would behave that stupidly in real life, it is irrational. But when you are about to be arrested, for example, and this dumb character speaks idiotically and has the entire party killed or arrested, you will not be laughing at that character anymore. So that is just my personal recommendation. Feel free to do as you see fit. And that is it with regards to proficiency bonuses, expertise, difficulty classes, and skill checks. In the upcoming video, bi'idhnillah and God willing, we will cover saving throws. Then we will continue with the creative process for our character. So I will again start with the scores, then we will continue by choosing a race. I hope this video was helpful and beneficial to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Be safe, take care, and peace be upon you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.